I think in the last 7 days, Stab have released one of the best things I've watched and one of the worst things I've watched in a long time. Welcome back to the Insiders. Uh, Potentially day one of the season today for you comp surf nerds and deep into January. We're here with a pretty sick episode lined up. And most importantly, as always, how are you, Daz?
I'm I'm all right, Matt. I've had a little bit of a cough just there a minute ago, and I'm just hoping that I'm not getting hit by stage two of another cold after an absolute shocker of a January, Matt. I'm telling you. I spent 5 days in bed, and every day I felt the forecast getting better and the stiff, freezing cold offshore wind blowing through my backyard to the windows. And I don't know if you can remember being that sick, but when you get a really bad cold in winter and it's freezing, and the fact of walking outside makes you feel like you're basically gonna die, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean,
So,
I think for me the level of it is I know how much you would do anything to surf the conditions that were on offer when you were ill, and the fact that like was barely even coming into your mind, like you didn't even want to get out of bed, let alone whack a wetsuit on and go surf. Uh, that should, if anyone was questioning how ill you were, that should just be the gauge that is held against that, for
mate,
sure.
the last day I actually did go for a surf on the Tuesday afternoon. I was thinking I can do it, I can nearly do it. And luckily it was the end of the swell and it had dropped and everything. And literally when I paddled out, I just felt like, I just had no energy. So that was a complete farce. I saw some epic videos. I'm pretty sure all of Europe was probably lighting up because we had that really kind of good anti-cyclonic weather with it. It was pretty frosty though, huh?
Yeah, it was sick weather. We had like cold but clear weather, and 14 days in a row it pumped. And on day 12 of 14, I can confirm that I definitely nearly drowned. Um, I pushed myself out on a building swell. That was a long period swell as well. Um, and about 45 minutes into my surf, this fucking huge fucker of a set came, caught me out, lit me up, and my leash snapped, and then copped like five more of these fuckers on the head. Um, with my board nowhere to be seen. Had to do the swim in. Um, Almost panicked. Didn't quite panic, but without being dramatic, I think I was nearly close to dying. Um,
So for the non-cold water surfing listeners out there, one of the most treacherous things about swimming in cold water surfing is just the flush of cold water you get through into your wetsuit, which is a little bit of a also just a an extra hindrance, isn't it? It kind of takes your breath away.
yeah,
And I think if anything, that will be the first thing that would lead you to a little bit of panic. You just gotta kind of not think about that.
yeah. I had like the two. I had myself on each shoulder, one saying breathe, take your time, stay calm, and the other one just going fuck. Um, And yeah, and what I found, the flushing definitely didn't help, and also gloves and boots don't help. Um,
Shut the door.
but it was it was sketchy, but then we survived, and probably think about it, it was probably not that sketchy, but it was scary at
It
the
was
time.
good for you, Matt. It was good for you. It's absolutely good for you taking yourself to your limit and being a little bit worried. It's really good for you because the next time it happens, you've already done it.
That's it. That's exactly how I felt. And then the next morning, I was paddling back out. It was slightly smaller the next morning, but I actually the next morning had a really, really, really good surf, and I kind of was like, well, maybe that's because I paid to play yesterday. But on top of the waves been pumping, quite a lot of stuff's been happening in the surf world as well, which we can talk about. Um,
Well, the Pipe Masters is on at the moment. It just kind of feels like a little bit of a an anticlimax because I mean the conditions are good without being great, and two, we lost. Well, he's in the event. John took the year off. Gabrielle got his pectoral ripped off. Steffi pulled off. We were expecting them to pull off, but it's still kind of, you've lost your top guns. It does kind of take a little bit of a luster on it. I'm pretty sure two events in, I really am a firm believer of no one's bigger than the sport. I think if Kelly was to have left the tour 10 years ago, it would have been a bit of a hit. But even Kelly leaving it now, I mean, the world's moved on and there are some good new young guys. So
yeah,
what do
I
we
think,
need? Good waves or what?
I mean, yeah, the waves, the WSL could do with a good swell. I mean, that's the thing with Pipe being on now. The kind of frustrating thing for me is, and I do get it, but we said this so many times last year. But looking at the forecast, they're going to run today and then they're going to be off for probably a week. And that to me is just a bit like it just sucks the excitement out of me a little bit because I'm like, right, WSL's back, and then it's off. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a hard
um,
one. Is that going to be the good part about the pool? I'm in a
yeah,
fantasy group and I sent out the calendar today and I saw it's like February 6th to 8 or something like that. It's just 2 days. It's just
yeah,
boom,
which
boom.
definitely is so. That's the really good thing about the pool, and um, maybe the only good thing about the pool.
That's the only good thing about it.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. You say that there's nothing, no one bigger than the sport, and I kind of agree, but I do also think if John and Gabby go, like, if Gabby decides, fuck it, I'm going to take the whole year off, and then recovers, and then in the meantime, John's dropping more clips and involved in more of Nathan's trips and things like that, and then Gabby, because of the comment everyone would have seen, saying he's going to go and hook up with John, that that will be like daggers into the WSL.
What if John wins this comp?
Amazing.
That how that would be a bit of a weird start. He takes a year off. He goes into the first shot. That's really like I really don't like when people start saying is there going to be an asterisk on the
No.
winner because it's just like that. Like people, you can't say there's an asterisk because someone was injured because they were. You can't say there's an asterisk because someone took the year off because they're taking a year off because they don't want to be there. So they most probably wouldn't have been at, not even most probably, they wouldn't have been at their full potential anyway.
And the thing as well is because I agree with you completely. The thing with that as well is it's not like John's winning every single. He's won three.
Nah,
He's won three, right? So he's
he
done
could
really
have come in
well.
and got injured after an event.
If someone said the asterisks about the Hobgood world title, I think potentially fair because Kelly and Andy both went on the tour and it was a short year. Um, so you've got like more than one
And
factor.
no one knew it was going to be a shorter year.
Yeah.
It was a,
And also, I think before that, like Kelly had won like X amount and Andy had won X amount. So it was like those two were winning it if they were in it.
for,
But that's not
for,
really.
for new listeners or new followers of sport, CJ Hobgood won the tour in 2000 and tell me, was it 2001? Because of
Yeah.
the September 11 bombings, they had to cancel the back end of the tour because, international travel got cut pretty short, pretty quick.
Yeah. Was it 2001 or 2011? Wait, how old was I?
No, it
No,
wasn't
2001.
2011.
2001. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 2001.
Um, and and I get that. Like, but anyone other than that, then there's not really an asterisk because, like I say, it's not like John's won the world title 5 out of the last 5 years. It's or Gabby or anyone. No one
He
has.
was he was lucky to win last year when he was in full form because like honestly, if you had yeah, if the judges had a couple of Red Bulls, maybe they would have got that excited that they maybe could have given Italo a couple of high scores or something like that. How do you think Felipe is going to go this year, Matt?
Um, I, I'm going bold statement. Felipe will not make the top five.
Will make the top five. I don't. I think he will, but I can't see him being world champ. So, there's been other stuff coming on.
I'll just say,
Apart from this, what else did you want to bring up?
yeah. So I think in the last 7 days, Stab have released one of the best things I've watched and one of the worst things I've watched in a long time. Um, to elaborate, the worst thing that they've released for a long, long time, the Stab Highway East Coast. Like, I promise you, don't waste a single second of your time watching episode one.
I'm
It,
not, and I refuse to watch that. I got too old for it.
it's the Australian one, amazing. The first American one, really good. This one, absolutely pony. Like, it's lost its like it's a surf trip, yet like there's no waves. There's no good surfing and no good waves in it. Like when you watch the Australian one, they got skunked a little bit, but they still found half decent waves.
So they
The
not have 165 tasks to do or challenges or whatever they're called.
yeah, 130 challenges, and like episode one was like 40 minutes or however long it was, and honestly, like they're it doesn't feel like it's a surf thing at all anymore. Um,
Don't waste any more energy on it, Matt.
yeah,
Don't
no,
watch it. Don't
but
watch it, listeners.
but in the honor of being completely truthful and unbiased, like we always are, the new episode of How Surfers Get Paid with Craig Anderson, in my opinion, is phenomenal. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Like watching, like I said to you, like watching oh no, maybe I said that to Bradley, who was in it. Like watching a train crash or something. Like it was pretty, it was riveting.
Yeah, it was like for me, it was just um everything about it was really good. Like I think they make it really good. I think Craig's really good because also what's good about it is you don't see like heaps of interviews with Craig and stuff. Um, I think that the angle of it, they didn't try and glorify him, but they didn't try and like tear him down. It was very balanced. It was just really good. And I forget they got Nat, I forget his surname, but in the Gash t-shirt, which is like iconic. I like him. Um,
Nat Nat Johnson.
that's it. I think a couple of people come off terrible in it, but that was also part of why I really liked it. And I think a couple of people come off really good. Um, I'd recommend anyone to go watch it. I think it's amazing.
I literally, for once, am able to kind of allude to being an insider on that one, Matt. Even though we say insiders, like we're not talking outside. It's more tongue in cheek, the name of our podcast listeners, than actually us thinking that we are, for example, in the White House or something. But uh, at that stage, I was working pretty closely with Quicksilver with a few team managers and shapers, and those guys, Dane and Craig Anderson, came into my work a bunch of different times. And I asked someone the other day, completely impartial. I said, like, look, this person had a super good contract, and this person, a female, said, yeah, so that's normal if they're one of the best surfers in the world, which I think they were, but they wouldn't wear their clothes. And I still to this day, you can say what you want. Nat Johnson can say what you want. If you're sponsored by a brand and you're not wearing their clothes, I just think, like, what are you doing? Like, come
Yeah,
on.
I agree. I think it's like if you put that into context of any job, if you're a taxi driver, you can't just drive around but not pick anybody up. You got to pick
Yeah.
people up, right? Like that.
If you go and work at McDonald's, man, you put your McDonald's uniform on, and that's for $6 an hour. I was
Yeah,
putting my McDonald's uniform on for $4.20 an hour in 1990. No, it was 80.
yeah. Like you can't,
1950.
and that's like literally like one of the major reasons they're getting paid is to wear those clothes and represent the brand. And it is like that's poor form, poor behavior, and real bad. Like, um, and they're probably
I do think paradoxically that they were two of the leading style master surfers in the world at the time. Dame was undoubtedly the most high performance surfer in the world, like as good as doing as good as what Kelly and Andy were doing at the time. And Craig was just doing something which the surfing world has been proven to love, because since then we've had a few Craigs, we've had Torren Martin, we've had Mikey February, we've had a few different versions of him, and people can't really get enough of it. So he
I think
was
that's where
not
the
only the right person at the right time, but he just was good, that good, I thought.
I do agree. But I do think that's where the brands and maybe the athletes have learned is really what the miss was is they should have been getting Craig to they should have been enabling Craig to make his own clothes with a Quickie logo on them. So like release a Craig Anderson range actually designed by Craig about what he wants to wear. And when you look at now, like Mikey February's tied down to CI and he's making boards that he wants to ride with CI and accessories and fins and everything. But they're actually designed by him and ones he wants to use. Rip Curl have just released a whole range of Steph's clothing and stuff that she was and would have been fully involved in the design of. And you can tell because it's not a Steph Gilmore bikini and like G-banger thong. It's like women's board shorts and then like swimsuits that Steph would wear whether she was paid or not, kind of thing. So they've learned from that, which I think is really clever. But I think there's a miss that they should have got Craig Anderson to design his own quickie clothes, and then maybe it would be a different a different outcome. I don't know, but
It was a hard one at the time, I remember, and I remember a lot of people complaining about it because the slacker pants had come out at the time, which were those kind of baggy bummed, uh, tight fitting ankle. They were pretty comfy, but they did look pretty hip. And the old school belief in the Quicksilver business was that they were looking for the masses and have to have everything sport, which was where the sales were. But you can do that. Like they were doing similar things across the board with their ski range, where you would have a really expensive ski jacket, but it wasn't the bulk and guts of
no,
the collection. You can still have your little Craig Anderson collection, and the dude, people can still like him and then
that's
go
it.
and buy the classic t-shirt. What did you think about the surfboard thing with him in the hip toe?
Mm. The hip toe, yeah, um, pretty classic. Um, and really, again, really interesting. Like the numbers are pretty fucking mental.
I don't know why, like, he could have got a bit of a royalty out of it, but honestly, I don't see anything really
Well, I always think about it. There's two sides.
wrongfully doing from Hayden.
No, definitely not. Because what about if he said, "Okay, Greg, we're gonna do, we're gonna give you a royalty on this board, but like, so for everyone sold, you get $15, but for everyone that goes unsold, we take back money." Would he have accepted that? No, because he didn't know. He didn't have any clue that that board was going to do that. And as much as all of those were sold, not all of them were sold because of Craig. Like obviously
Nah, of
a lot
course
of
not. It was
workers.
because it was a big fat chunk of a board that looks good with its white and black, wasn't
Yeah, our good friend Jonathan Weaver,
it?
him and Bram, our other good friend Bram, they they both got one because they went on a trip and they saw surfers their level surfing really well on a hip toes and was like, shit, maybe there is something in that board that isn't just a 5.4 at cloud break because no one else is doing that. That's what Craig done. No one else was ordering it at 5.4. Everyone was ordering them oversized. Um, so as much as Craig obviously 100% elevated that board to a very high level, he didn't. It's not every single hip toe sold because of Craig Anderson. Absolutely not. Plus, like that, I think they say it in the episode as well. But there's other models that Craig's released that, like the white noise and other models that he's released with Hayden that just haven't taken off. So clearly, it's not all just people wanting to ride what Craig Anderson's riding.
And that board potentially influenced how he had to surf on a wave because it was so fat under the front foot, and maybe led way to influencing his style on a certain couple of waves. Who knows? Was it the chicken laid the egg, or did
Yeah,
what
that's
came
it.
first? Yeah, yeah. So either
But
way,
it
it
was
was super
super
interesting.
interesting. Yeah,
I,
100%.
I knew they sold that many boards. Like I was in Lance's rights on land that year. So what year was that? It must have been
Wow.
2000 and
They said it.
man, I think it was
14?
2015.
Yeah, I think it was as well.
I think it was because Marlo was born and I think it was his second year. Yeah, yeah. So it was 2015, and this Aussie dude was there off a boat one day, and he was on one, and I just, that was a period where we just wanted to hate him because they were coming um from Cobra, and on top of that, Hayden sent us. We got 8 Fipsies made with Fiberflex black. We got them
Yeah.
made in that construction. He shipped them to us with our Burford Banks container, and he wanted us to distribute for Europe,
Mm.
and we, not necessarily me, pulled out of it, even though I was a little bit worried about him as well, because like 4 of the 8 we got snapped in within 3 surfs here, like you imagine here, a pist or something. So because they had no stringer.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessary. And so anyway, this dude's paddled out, and I was like, "Fuck, man!" I was like, "What are you surfing that?" I was going, "How are you going to get it fixed?" Epoxy in the middle of India, and he's, "I've got my epoxy solar rays. I love it." And he got a few barrels on it, and he was surfing good on it, and he just loved it. And this was a core surfer,
Yeah.
so there was core surfers. One of my best mates, he's charges G-Land's got 1 or 2, and says they go sick at G-Land.
Yeah. The guy who I was surfing with when I nearly drowned, it was solid. He was on a 5.8 hip toe.
Did you not see my post a couple of years ago when I was in Australia last and I fell
Yeah, yeah,
backwards
just
and ripped the fin box out?
rip the fin out of it. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah.
Iconic board, right place, right time.
And a sick docu-series episode from Stab that would highly recommend. Um, yeah.
You've got a special guest with us tonight, haven't you, Matt? That I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to speak to, but you did.
Yeah. So ending the episode, I have spoken. or people will be able to listen to me speak to Chris Thompson, who, for people who are not aware, Chris is the guy who's taken over Wavelength Magazine, which is mainly a UK publication. He is also one of the two guys behind Longboarder Magazine, which has been going a year or two now. And he's bringing a surf and skate expo to the UK in September this year. Um, really, really interesting chat, really interesting guy, and really kind of behind everything he's doing and all the moves he's making is a passion to lift the UK and European surf industry back to some of the days where it was maybe a little bit more buoyant and a bit more fun. But he's just really passionate about surfing. We chat about everything, like his plans, the history, how he's come to be in the position he's in. And then we actually chat a little bit about, the boards he rides. Very interesting, actually, about his board, his quiver. He has a two board quiver, and everyone
Of
can.
which is because I had a look. He seems to ride all boards pretty good, huh?
Yeah, he's a
Obviously.
good surfer, but like he'll explain, I guess, the boards more. But basically, he goes from a 9.8 to a 5.11, and that's it.
9.8 to a 5.11. What sort of 5.11? Short board or a fish?
It's a fish, and it's epoxy, and it's also made in the Far East. Um, and it has a famous guy's name behind it. And it is interesting because he doesn't really decipher the differences between the boards because of wave height or wave size or anything. It's just he'll be like, right, I just want to surf this for a bit. So he'll surf his fish, whether it's 2 foot or 8 foot, and then the same for his 9.8, which is quite different to, I've got a quiver of boards that I look at and I'm like, right, that's my board for this size.
Is that a current two board quiver? How long's he been rolling this two board quiver? Because I've just got a feeling that that won't last forever.
I don't think it will last forever. I think he's been running that for a year or so now.
I think
In
in
the chat,
theory it sounds good.
in the
And then
chat,
you get a niche.
yeah, we spoke about it a little bit in the chat about like I said to him, it might be more sensible to find himself a mid-length. But we talk about that. We talk about what boards they are, and a little bit more as to why and how he goes with it, which everyone can enjoy. But yeah,
That's
really, like really cool to hear where he wants to drive, especially the UK industry.
that's really interesting that he's getting a trade show up and running again. Have you been to one? When was the last one time you went to a trade show? I went to a shit ton, but not for years.
Um, I would say the last one I went to, I don't even know if it counts, but I've been to a Eurosema one like 3 years ago, but it was
I
more
guess
like
things just got canned because of COVID, didn't they?
yeah, it was. I was going to say it was more or so more like pretty low key. And then have I been to?
What was that, the surf summit when you were down here?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and it was like the one I was at was more like I think it was a Eurosema one, and it was like they also tied it in with that week where everything goes on sale.
All right, the Brighter week.
That's it, yeah. Um, but it was very low key. It wasn't like anything I've heard or seen, or I see like videos of the ones they have in America and stuff, and that's where Chris wants to take it. Is like he's seen the ones where people go around the world, and it's not just an expo for B2B. This one he's putting on, it's like um, there's going to be like a vintage surfboard meet and greet and like swap and stuff and like film nights and he's bringing a UK Surfer Award kind of ceremony to it as well and things like that. But yeah, so sounds good. Let everyone can listen to the chat and obviously what what we said in the chat as well is like there's going to be more news and more guests and more information dropping about it, and every time it does, we'll get that published and put it into a poddy as well, so everyone can follow it.
We'll see if we
Um,
can get him back on one time because I did a little, like
yes.
I said, I did a little bit of research on him, but I was unable to talk to him because I had family visiting from Australia and everything. And I saw he's done a couple of little tech talk
Yeah.
things on AI design and everything, and I'm really, really interested. I did a small little tutorial with masterclass on the future of AI design, and it's as exciting as it is scary, really, how much it can
Yeah.
do for us, and also how dumb it can potentially make our next generation.
Yeah, he is. So yeah, the other side of his business is to do with all of that, and he is very in tune and will 100% get him back on before the show and probably after it as well, and speak about how well the expo went. Um, Before we jump into that though, Darren, I do have to announce that today is a very special day because for me, there is a new member of the family. We have taken on a 6'2" album Freewing that was made for Jack Freestone that has now made its way into my hands. And we are very proud to announce that it's arrived in a healthy,
What do you
uh,
call it? A three wing?
yeah, Freewing. That's the model name.
What sort of dimensions you got?
6'2", 19.5 by 2.5.
Ooh la la.
Feels very good under the arm. It has been ridden and stickered up by Jack Freestone, and that's where I'm now at a predicament that I need to ask you about. Do I leave the stickers on?
No,
Uh,
take them off.
you reckon?
Yes,
But they look quite good.
it's not cool, Matt.
Hmm.
It's someone else's stickers. Ask the public. Kook or core for me. That's absolutely take the stickers off because you're not Jack Freestone.
Very true. Um, yeah. Well,
You're looking back at the stickers. You can't. You want to leave them on. Do what you do.
no,
Do what
no,
your best call.
I'm torn. I'm really torn because I'm against stickers. Like none of my other boards have stickers on them. I'm against it because I think first and foremost, someone sees me walking down the beach with, a creature's little leisure sticker
You're
and a
putting too
future
much
sticker
pressure on
and
yourself.
pocket.
Take them off.
They're gonna be like, this guy's gonna go ham, and then they're just gonna see me bog both rails at the same time. But I think I'll follow I might put an Instagram story up
Also,
after
it's
this.
always good for resale value. That's the problem. I used to even buy stickers. We used to
I'm
always
not
have
selling
stickers
it.
and put stickers under. You never know. You might just hate it.
I still wouldn't sell it. Um, I'd
We'll
have,
see.
I'd have FOMO about someone else. Like if I saw someone else with it, I'd be like, nah, I want it back. Um, I'll put an Instagram story up with a poll, and whatever the outcome is, I will follow. So if you guys want me to cook it up and keep the stickers, I will follow that if the poll says so, and vice versa. So um, we'll see how the poll goes. But that
Okay,
was
I've got a Keukel core for you because it's starting to get up in my grill a little bit too much. Um, if you've been surfing for between 1 and 3 years, and you're just all psyched about it, and you're in the new generation where you can just get all your gear off and have basically a next to nothing skin Instagram handle. Should you be giving people surf tips?
um, you mean like so someone's been surfing for like 1 to 3 years, and then but their actual kind of persona is like like modeling and getting the kit off. Is that what you mean?
Or even the ones that aren't, just surf mentors that actually aren't really.
So people who don't really surf giving unsolicited surf advice. Um,
Oh, people who are fully stoked on surfing, but like for example, I'm fully stoked on science, but I'm not going to start up a
yeah.
science podcast and give people
No, yeah,
uh
yeah.
nuclear energy tutorials, am I?
I completely. I think for me that is completely kook. I see it quite a lot in dietary kind of posts as well, where you get people going like, "Oh,
Oh,
I'm only eating this and not doing this," and I'm like, "Bruh, like you shouldn't be."
keep it to yourself.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So for me, that's an easy kook. Like I wouldn't give someone advice on how to surf, let alone like someone who's been doing it like 1 to 3 years um and stuff like yeah, no. It's terrible. And also I need to add to that, especially when like especially when all you do is surf like a wave pool or something, like and then you see the reviews and stuff and they're like, oh, I'm working on my backhand turn today. And I'm like, no, you ain't. Like, or or they start giving someone advice about a backhand turn and trying to get really vertical, and then they post a video of themselves, and you never see the end of the wave because they do the first bit of the turn and then they fall or they don't make it out or whatever. And you're like, you're not fooling anyone. Um, so shut up.
I'm just sick of fucking all this digital influences, man. It's just I just wish it was a safe space out there that you could watch funny
Mm.
stuff, or you could watch your dudes on their skateboards go down a hill at 100k an hour, or someone run across the top of the mountain, like Killian Jornet, who's running across a cliff top. He's not putting in under his thing. I make sure you take 4 steps for each rock, and
So
I'm living the life. I just can't hack it. They're just coming up too much on my feed, man.
what do you think about like I don't know if you've seen it or heard it, but like the Nick Von Rupp shit then. Have you seen what he's been doing?
And absolutely can't watch it.
When
I've
he
refused to watch it. I think I've saw a little bit of it, and I will quickly switch off.
he fucking does like full like explanations of the forecast and shit. And you're like, fuck off. Like,
It's getting over the top.
just shut up. Like, fucking idiot.
We're getting smashed by that stuff in this new generation, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's going to their head.
It's just a bit like it's just weird. But it is what it is.
It is what it
Um,
is. I just don't like it.
Nor do I. And to end there is a good place to end, and then we'll lead into, as I say, myself and Chris chatting in the absence of Darren, which he was sorely missed. Um, but like I say, we'll get him back on. But that is it. And the next episode, we will probably be talking about who's won pipe, if not who's about to win pipe.
Well, good luck to everyone in the world, and for that, and good luck to the rest of yous. And let's hope the rest of your week is fantastic, or your weekend.
Yeah.
Au
And
revoir, and hello to our new guest.
Barra Mamiya is going to win pipe.
Go Baron. I'm calling John John.
Cool. Speak soon. Enjoy me and Chris, everybody. So yeah, welcome to the Insiders, Chris. How are you doing today on this lovely, rainy Cornish day?
I'm doing well, thank you. We had a pretty good run of surf, so I'm grateful for a bit of downtime, hiding
Yeah,
from this rain.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. My arms were getting to the point of like deliberately not working when I try and load up Surfline.
That
Um,
was so good
so
though.
so we would have just explained, but so you catch up. Our listeners are aware. You're Chris Thompson. You are now the leader of Wavelength Magazine. and the publication. You are the the guy behind Longboarder Magazine, and you're the guy behind the newly announced UK Surf and Skate Expo. That's correct?
Yeah, I think, well, with Wavelength, I feel more like a guardian to it, maybe a temporary guardian. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah. So to give people a little bit of background without going really deep on the wavelength side of things, um, it was obviously it was very successful and quite a big publication since like 1981 or something like that. Very, very well known. And then for reasons beyond anything else, found themselves in some sort of strife. And then the Guardian as such yourself came in. When was that? That was last year?
Yeah, I think by the time all the paperwork was sorted out, it was probably late spring 2024.
Yeah. Yeah. And um what one question I wanted to ask is, you know, in a world where things are going away from publication, um, it would have been easy to just look at it and go, "Oh, that'd be a cool thing to take on." But and I'm sure a lot of people did look at it and be like, "That'd be quite a cool thing to take on." But you were brave enough to step in and step up. What was like the kind of one driver in the early days of wanting to take that on?
Well, it's kind of funny because my background for the last 15 years has been in digital marketing. So you spend the whole time telling people that print's dead. Um, but when this opportunity came around, I just, I don't know. I started surfing when I was nine, back in like 1990, and Wavelength was pretty much a staple, um, staple magazine for me, and it's inspired me to do lots. Growing up on the Isle of Wight, you didn't have those turquoise barrels, or you didn't even have like the quality waves of like Cornwall. So that Wavelength and Carve and all those magazines were really aspirational for me as a young kid. Um, so so when I heard that Wavelength, it was a bit of a, if you're not going to take it on, we're probably just going to wrap it up kind of situation. And we'd been, at that point, we'd been, Stan Bleakley and I had been running Longboarder Magazine for a couple of years. And I kind of, all the logical reasons why you shouldn't do it, I kind of put to one side, and it'd just be such a shame to see it end after, like there's not many businesses that have been around for 43 years, let alone in the surfing media world. So um, it was definitely emotional decision rather than a sensible business decision.
And that's probably the best way to make that decision. And
Oh yeah.
the most decisions that you look at like a lot of brands and a lot of companies out there that you're like what why and stuff, and then you like when it comes down to the emotional decisions are probably the ones that end up being more successful because you've got a bit more of like heart behind it kind of thing as well.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was an emotional decision, but it's backed by deep-rooted passion, and that really is what you need in business. Because the good times are great, but the bad times, they come around, and you need that deep-rooted passion to see things through. And that's why I was
Yeah.
happy to take it on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense with every, and that's kind of a good bit of advice to anyone if you're thinking about doing anything, setting up your own business, setting up your anything, like make sure you absolutely love it and you're passionate about it. Otherwise, you might be wasting your time. But so then with Wavelength, obviously now you've had it like kind of under your guardianship for 10 months or so. And what do you plan on doing? Like, and I know a few of these things, but it'll be good to explain to other people. What do you plan on seeing as like the difference in what you're going to do to move it forward so it doesn't continue to be, obviously where it was at 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's kind of a bit funny actually because Wavelength has historically had a bit of a really bumpy ride in terms of its kind of commercial as a commercial entity. Even like back to the 80s and 90s, it's kind of had ups and downs. Um, I think what's different this time round is we have other projects that that's how we get paid. So we don't necessarily need Wavelength. It's not like a profit. We don't need it or don't want it to be a profit driving business. It doesn't need to be, um, which kind of like set the course last year to put it into a community interest company. So if anyone's not familiar with what that is, it's still a limited company, but instead of being owned by shareholders, it doesn't have any shares for people to own. Um, so it becomes for the interest of the community. In this case, it's the creative surfing community. And what that does is a couple of things. One is it completely eradicates that kind of profit hungry, shareholder driven vibe. And two, it opens it up so that we can apply for funding to help people get into this industry, whether that's photography workshops or writing or heritage project. There's so much more we can do as a bit of a collective, and it's worked really well already. The second thing we've done, so we still very much passionate about having the print. That's still twice a year. It's summer, it's winter. It's a really high quality publication, and we brought in Wavelength's first ever female editor, Bella Bunce. She's been exceptional. We kind of spotted her with a lot of the Longboarder Magazine stuff that she was doing, and she's been fantastic at kind of bringing it forwards and bringing the magazine forward. So a couple of things like straight out the gate that we did to kind of solidify Wavelength for the next 43 years. And then I'm sure we'll come on to it, just building out other things that kind of celebrate and showcase British surfing to feed into the ethos of why Wavelength was created in the first place.
Yeah. And would you say that like the Longboarder magazine, which I know you do one publication a year with as well, is that almost like the same principle of what you're looking to do with that in terms of just to basically celebrate and kind of highlight the longboarding kind of side of things and the longboarding story and industry um through passion without through driving a penny.
Yeah, I think that. So when cause we briefly lived in Canada for a number of years, and then when I moved back to Cornwall, I was amazed at how longboarding had exploded and how many more people were longboarding and how diverse it was. And I was talking to my friend Sam about just the explosion of longboarding and how there isn't a platform for all those brilliant longboarders and photographers and writers to kind of like share their stories and photography. And obviously, like Pacific Longboarder is an excellent magazine, but it's out of Australia. It's slightly different kind of vibes what we went for. So it really was just about creating that platform and then stepping to one side and letting other people take ownership of it. And that's what I think has worked really well with Longboarder Magazine. It's not it is just that. It's just a platform for the photographers, the writers, the surfers to have somewhere to showcase and celebrate their longboarding, and that then has fed into where we want to take Wavelength. The only difference being Wavelength is much more focused on British surfing, whereas Longboarder is longboarding globally in
Yeah.
that niche of surfing.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree. I would call myself someone a fan of alternative surfcraft. Maybe you could call it inconvenient surfcraft half the time to some people who look at it. But I always find that the most stylish, the most interesting, the most artistic surfers are either on, they're either on twin fins and or experimental designs or longboards or both. Um, And I think that screams through when you flick through a longboarder magazine, the look, the feel, the design, the fact that it's once a year, everything feels very consciously chosen to be high quality and very artistic. Like an artist who's proud of their work will never pump stuff out for the sake of people wanting to see more and more. And I'm sure that you've got people who have probably said to you, "Ah, do more than one magazine a year, like do more than one release a year." But really, it's like actually, if you did, they probably wouldn't appreciate it as much as well.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And we recognize that quite early on. It's like it's we're not and same kind of wavelength a little bit. Like we're not our intention is not to pump it out because the thing is, old surf magazines, all the content you used to get in them, we get on Instagram now. So you
Mm.
almost want the complete opposite. Like you have one end of the spectrum where you're the doom scrolling, the instant news, the instant images, and actually the magazines now need to be on the other end of the spectrum where they're like more considered, long form content, high quality images, like tactfully, like the magazine feels fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, so and just doing them once a year, like it's at our pace. It's not like we're
Mm.
not scrambling for content. We're not like rushing for print deadlines. We'll do it when it's right. And that's been amazing for Longboarder because you can just see that quality throughout in terms of
Yeah.
all the writing and photography and editorial.
And I think it is weirdly poetic that that's a very longboard style way of surfing. Like the best longboarders are the longboarders who take their time and they wait, like, and the longboarders who are trying to rush and, um, and trying to kind of thrash about that it jumps out as well, which is weirdly poetic. So moving on from that, you did mention obviously like the takeover of Wavelength to then drive to other avenues and to open up other doors. And for everyone listening, this week I think it was you properly announced. I know it's been out for a while, but the first kind of like heavy news on your next gift to the UK surf industry. Do you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah. Okay. So it kind of links to wavelength a bit. So the news is obviously we're putting on the UK Surf and Skate Expo. The reason why is kind of multifaceted, but really it when we first took Wavelength on last year, I went and sat down with one of the original co-founders, Jeff Tideman. John Conway is sadly no longer with us, but I sat with Jeff for the morning, and we were going through all the old pictures and stuff, and was telling me the stories of how why and how they got issue one out back in the summer of 1981. So I would have been just about to be born. Um, and the story about getting the magazine out right before the Go on Older Surf Classic, and it was really just like they were adamant on putting British surfing on the map. At the Goal and Older Surf Classic in 1981, there was some serious big hitters and big names coming, and this was a great opportunity for John and Jeff to create a magazine that showcased, celebrated, and documented British surfing and showed the waves and the people. And so they printed 5,000 copies, and they got they got rid of them all over that kind of week in August. And so when we first took Wavelength on, obviously you're printing two magazines a year. You have like 10 ad spaces. You're kind of, if you're lucky, breaking even, right? Which is fine because it's a community interest company. But we're kind of thinking like, what more could we do that is still aligned with that ethos of celebrating, supporting, and documenting British surfing that isn't print. Like we still want to do the print; it's the cherry on top. And initially, we launched the Wavelength UK Surfer Awards, which is going ahead. Launches in February, publicly voted. 12 categories. The public will get to vote on their favorite surfers in different categories, and then we'll celebrate the kind of finalists in that event. But over a period of weeks, through various conversations with different people in various parts of the industry and around the world, what became really, really evident was that this event was going to be really successful. The brands loved it. It was because it's just full of positivity, and we don't have anything like this at the moment. But what became evident was actually, you know, we need something a bit more. We need a bit bigger. The UK surfing industry hasn't had a focal point in terms of a trade show or an expo for at least 12, maybe even 15 years. So that is where we're at. So we launched it this week that just gone. We had 190 brands on our webinar. It's gonna be kind of a 3-day event, B2B, B2C hybrid destination expo in Newquay, second weekend of September. Really just like fully aligned with that original ethos of what Wavelength was all about at the beginning. But again, similar thing, like we're just creating a bigger platform for more people to get involved, to take ownership of the bits that they want to get involved with.
Yeah. So basically, it's like the way I see it, if I break it down, taking outside myself out of the work space and putting myself into a consumer space, is second weekend of September. There's going to be a lot of surf brands and surf related industry people in Newquay at this expo that you can go to, you can get tickets for. And there's going to be obviously the awards, the awards night. I'm guessing the award night there'll be tickets for the public to go to.
Yeah, that's right. So the expo itself is obviously free to attend. You just need to register for a ticket online. Yeah, at the minute, like we are like 1 week into it
Yeah.
launching, but already we have, you know, Friday night is the Wavelength UK Surfer Award ceremony, which public can buy tickets for. On the Saturday night, there's gonna be a surf skate film festival. We're gonna have a purpose built skate park and vert ramp. There's going to be stuff going on down at Great Western Beach. There's going to be skate jams going on, concrete waves, after parties, music, and then a big expo village, which is like the trade show bit. And then we've also got the expo hall, which can sit up to about 900 people, where we're going to have keynote presentations and panel discussions. So I kind of see it as a bit of like a Marrakesh of the surf industry, where we're going to have tribes from different places come down and share ideas and share you know, the latest products
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So there's a bit of hope. I think it's going to be quite a melting pot of for a weekend. So it's,
Well, I think for me, like it ticks all the boxes. Like I say, like when I'm sat, because obviously for me, industry wise, work wise, there's a heap of benefits. But when I'm sat here on these recordings, I'm just the frothy surfer, and I'm like sick. Like basically, my chance to attend a UK Surfer Pole Award, which is really cool, and to see people crowned that I would have voted for, which is really really cool. The fact that you can go and rub shoulders with industry icons, no doubt from across the world and Europe, but also the UK. And you could be standing around having a beer with, I don't know, like Nigel Semmons, or like I don't know, like I'm just obviously these people might not even go, but like Harry Timpson, or if Lucas Skinner's about, if he's not in Hawaii or Australia or whatever, you could literally be side by side with these people and just having a beer and having a laugh and seeing how normal they are as well. And then at the same time, if you've got your head screwed on and you're a Grom, you go and you show up and you represent yourself well, you're going to be putting yourself on people's radar, not just because of your comp results or your Instagram results. You're in a way you're building your brand. And I like to say that because a lot of our episodes we've spoken to professional surfers in the space of sponsorships and free surf to comp surf and all of that. And a lot of people are like, oh, where do I start? How do I start? And the amount of times I've said it to people and on here is, you know, just you're constantly representing yourself, and it's another opportunity for that. I think it's amazing. I think it's excellent. It really excites me. Um, because I get jealous when I see expos in Cali or in France. Like there's the Eurocema one in France and stuff. Like um so if we could bring that to the UK and obviously you are now, I think that's incredible.
Yeah, I think I just going back to your point there about like the Groms. So Cotty is one of our first keynote speakers. He's going to be doing a talk about sort of surfing a 100-foot wave and surf confidence. So quite a good one for most people. And he was talking about why he's so passionate about this. Is he landed his first sponsorship? I think it was with Analog when he was a teenager, just wandering around the surf expo that used to happen up in, well, I think it was Exeter or Bristol, and that buzz that he had, and he being able to walk straight up to the marketing guy on the stand and shaking his hand, and he distinctively remembers that and the buzz of the expo. So like when you're a kid, you're running around grabbing stickers from all your favorite companies and getting to meet their team riders, and that's such a cool thing to be able to bring back. Um, so I think we've had nothing but awesome positivity about it in the short amount of time that we've launched it, and it's going to build out to be quite the expo. There's not like there's a lot more to come. Like what you see now is only about 10% of what's in the pipeline. It's just we've got a few months to go yet.
Yeah, of course. And obviously no doubt we'll continue to keep our listeners up to date with any new news, any big signings, if Chris can afford to get the insiders there or not, like
Yeah,
but we're still negotiating those terms.
yeah.
It's
I think we yeah.
got to pay for
We'll
our
see.
Zoom
We'll have to see on the
upgrade.
budget. Yeah, all those green M&Ms in your before your talk.
Yeah, and the Zoom upgrade so we could do longer episodes. That
There you go.
no, but we'll keep people up to date. But absolutely, I think and I think that there's going to be no doubt. There's people who go from France to the Moroccan Expo and from Germany to the France Expo. So no doubt there'll be people from across Europe now coming to Nuki. Weirdly, I have a take on it that I haven't actually said this to anyone, but it's basically this is what should be called boardmasters because
Oh, don't say that.
yeah, well, because boardmaster a few years ago I went to boardmasters for the first time and I was kind of disappointed by the fact that it's actually a festival and I don't know why, but I expected it to be like full of surfers and it's not. Obviously the comp's the comp, but the actual festival is very festivally. Whereas I
Yeah.
feel like this could be a weekend where it is like surfers and skaters just boom, like together. And I
Oh
think
yeah, 100%.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be like quite diplomatic. I think the problem with Boardmasters is it's obviously it's one of the only music festivals in the country that you can go to if you're under 18, and that's quite a branded. You pick
Yeah.
up you through a brand association that ends up becoming your brand. Um, and I can see this regardless. I see them as quite complementary events. I don't see them as competition. I see them as
Oh no, yeah.
having two great events in the same town. Um, but yeah, I think I just I wish I could tell you more, but I think there's some really great stuff coming with the expo that will be a lot more core. Like it will feel a lot more like core
Yeah.
to the surfing, more true to the surfing and skating community, and for all levels, whether you're like a 6-year-old frothing skateboarder or if you're a 45-year-old longboarder, that like you're going to have a friggin' great weekend.
Yeah.
Um,
And my clarification on the Boardmasters thing is only in the name.
oh right,
I think Boardmasters is great, but sometimes I think there's like I was basically catfished by the concept of
the
Boardmasters.
name.
Um, in terms of the crowd that's going to be there. I still think it's obviously a great event, and My first year in living in Cornwall last year, and actually I was dreading the Boardmasters Week, and actually it was really, really cool. Didn't hate it at all. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be sick. Like, the time when the Expo's on, and it's going to be really cool to see what Bella and you guys do with Wavelength. I think that it's really, really intriguing what you've done with the setup of the business, which then is going to promote. It's very clever, I think, where it's going to internally promote more people to get into photography and into writing, which is then going to lead you guys to having more articles and more photography. Um, and I think it's very fresh. So I like to congratulate you on that because I think it's a very fresh way of looking at a slightly outdated industry in terms of the print. And it could have been quite easy for you to replicate what's been done for years and years and years, but taking a fresh look, I think, is really cool. Um, and the UK, the surf industry and the UK surf industry is something that I feel pretty strongly passionate about. So I think it's really inspiring that you're taking this all on and bringing it to life. And no doubt we'll support that. And like you say, the more you can, when you've got more things to drop, we can drop voice notes into episodes to keep people aware. We can ensure that that's getting spread because we're going to obviously be there to enjoy the hard work that you guys have put together as well. So yeah, so thanks for that.
Yeah, awesome.
What I did want to say is we've got a little bit of time. It'll be cool to ask you, like um for the people to understand. You're a surfer, obviously. Um, Tell us a little bit about like what board you're riding at the moment, what you've been enjoying. You said there was a swell bender, so which we all enjoyed. Tell us a little bit about, yeah, your boards mainly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since moving back from Canada, I've been on a 9/8 double scoop by Skin Dog. Um, so that's been pretty much. I'm one of those surfers where I'll have one board and I'll have it for a long time and rarely use anything else. So I'm pretty not very exciting in that respect. Like you won't find a massive quiver in my garage. But the double scoop's been brilliant. So been on that, but I did have a little hiatus over the winter where I actually ordered a new double scoop, but it wasn't quite ready for a few months. So I ended up on a 511, the Firewire Rob Machado thing. So
Oh, the two
I can't,
fish.
the two fish, that's right. So I've been riding that most of the winter, which is it's great fun in the summer when you're in like a 3-2 and it's all sloppy and you can feel like you're skateboarding again. But in these winter swells, it's probably not been the best board, but it's still been really fun. So
Yeah,
I tend to go for one extreme to the other. So from the 511 twin fin to my 9/8 log. But
yeah.
I'm trying to fill that gap.
I was going
It's
to
my
say
mission. Yeah,
that's
I
a
want
big
to.
like. Oh, my longboard's not ready, so I'm going to bust out a 511 epoxy like twin fin.
Yeah, and
That's
it is on my my New Year's resolutions this year to actually get a bit more of a spread. I think I was so loving the longboarding when we moved back to Newquay that I just rode the 9/8 the whole time and should have built up a bit more of a quiver. But
maybe it's time to get yourself on a mid-length. Sounds a lot
yeah,
sensible, but
what's that?
that sounds like it'd be a bit more sensible than going 9/8 to 511. You could probably
Yeah,
get a 610 or something in the middle of it. But no, that's cool. Like it's cool to know because, like there's so many people that do so many different things and like I've got quite a few boards, but this year I've really limited. I've literally only ridden. I keep saying to myself like there's three boards in rotation and not, which is really really cool. But it's interesting to know what boards and how different people operate. Like and when you
yeah.
do get fixated on a board, and I definitely think it helps. Like I love riding only like one or two boards.
Well, I know I can think of some longboarders that I used to compete with in other parts of the country, but they're constantly chopping and swapping and chopping their boards. And like it's like the one variable that you can control. Like you can fix that variable by finding a board that you like and riding it continuously. But
Yeah.
if you keep chopping it out, like you're constantly, I don't know, it just seems a bit. I just like to know that in surfing, which is full of variables, that is the one that you can actually control.
Yeah. And I also think it sometimes is like there's so much head noise around. Like you're like, if you chop and change your board all the time, and if you've got like a 15 board quiver, and you're like, oh, this board's for when it's 3 foot, but the forecast is actually 3 to 4 foot. Is it going to hold or is it? Oh, and then you're like, oh, it's not paddling well enough, or oh, it's I'm getting into waves, but it's spinning out. And then the best
Yeah,
surfers I know, and like we was talking, one of our previous guests was talking about Frankie Obenhauser, the South African free surfer who I've been on a proper hype of watching now. He's like his boards are like years and years and years old now, and he's just dialed
yeah.
into them. And you're like, well, no doubt that's why he looks so good on them.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I know I'm sure like if we lived somewhere like Hawaii or somewhere where you have that full spectrum of waves, like then having a fuller quiver would definitely makes sense. But like just surfing around here, you
Yeah,
don't you don't necessarily need you can surf you can well like I was riding that 511 firewire from everything from like waist high to double overhead. And for the most part, that's all we get.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not like you need eight, 8, 10 board quiver.
No, unless you're a weirdo like me and you just and you just have one.
Yeah.
You don't do any of them
So,
justice.
you must have way more disposable cash than me then.
I think I just surf like that. I avoid anything heavy in terms of like positioning on a wave that they just last longer, maybe.
Yeah.
But hey, well, thanks so much for your time. That's really, really great to hear. Really excited for the year and to see what else comes from like the Expo, Wavelength, Longboarder, and who knows what's next from yourself as well. Because it seems like you're not shy from a project. But yeah, thanks so much, and it'll be great to get you back on after the Expo and hearing what a huge success it was.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.